Welcome everyone to the Green Room podcast. This year it feels fitting to reflect on the businesses and the business owners I've had the privilege to work alongside over the past 25 years. It's been an amazing 25 years and I've met some extraordinary people who have built unbelievable businesses, and I've had the privilege to walk beside them for much of that journey. I want to bring you those insights, those things that really move the needle, not just in the day-to-day, but also in the bigger picture. Those things that provide a great business outcome, but also the life and freedom that you as a business owner really desire. So buckle up, welcome aboard, and I look forward to talking to you through the podcast. Hello everyone and welcome to the Green Room podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about something that's quite dear to my heart and something that's incredibly important, and that is succession. And I'm going to talk you through the 5 things that I've seen that I think really make succession work. What are the 5 elements that we really must get right to protect the family, and which is the most important thing and the thing we're looking to do. But also really look after the founder and how we transition them, and then also look after the aspirations and visions for the business that the next gen might have. And it's really quite complex, family relationships and family business, because there's a whole nother layer that sits underneath that isn't there in a normal business. At both a parental level and at the sibling level, there's a layer of relationship that's been established over many years that predates the business role and relationships. And it's very, very tricky to try and separate the two. And in fact, it very rarely happens. Those stories that happen when you're a kid that frame you, that role that your parents had in disciplining the next gen as they were growing up, all of those things, they're still present when the business succeeds from founder to next gen. Interestingly, and quite surprisingly to me, nearly half the businesses I now mentor are next generation businesses. And I actually mentored their mums and dads, the original founders, at the outset, where we worked for years on improving their business, got them to a point where we created a retirement plan and process and succession in the business, and then gradually transition to the kids, to the next generation, and then hopefully as smoothly as possible, we're able to seamlessly transition the running of and the operation of the business to the next generation. So that's fascinating. When I actually sat down and looked at it, how many of my clients are actually next gen, around half. But anyway, let's talk about the truth that most families don't say out loud, and that succession isn't a handover. It's a real shift in identity. For the founder, it can feel like letting go of a limb. It really can. For the next generation, it can feel like stepping into a legacy that's both inspiring and heavy. When it's done well, it's really beautiful thing. It works really well and businesses thrive. But when it's done poorly, it quietly eats away and breaks families. So it's really important that we get these next 5 things right in the transition phase and in the years prior and the years post the transition to really maximise the opportunity that succession can provide. Everyone who starts a business, it might be a generalisation, everyone, but a lot of people that start a business dearly love to hand that on to their kids as their dream, so that their legacy continues on. And interestingly, I'm in the lucky position that I can actually help facilitate that. So number one, the first thing is that the next generation do want to do it differently, is what I'm finding. Not because they're disrespectful, it's because they watch the cost of what Dad did. So I hear a lot, I don't want to build it the way Dad did. And that's not disrespect, it's observation. They watched Mum and dad work 60-hour weeks. They watch holidays interrupted. They watch stress being carried home each night. And they want a different version of success. They want to do it differently. One next gen person that I'm mentoring told me that dad built this business on grit and really hard work, but I want to build it on structure and organisational leadership. So we designed the business that way: clear roles, clear expectation, proper handovers, genuine leadership meetings. That meant the business didn't need the heroics of one individual, which is what one or two, which was mum and dad's role historically to survive. And quite often that structure then creates more surety for the team and for the staff, and chaos drops away. So number one is recognising that the next generation often want to do it differently. Number two is that the next generation are leaning towards it. So what does different look like? Well, I call it a family corporate model. They want the structures that will give them the freedom that they wouldn't have in a job, but the structures that give them freedom to act like business owners and get all the benefits of being a business owners. So the problem that founders had, a lot of them didn't get that luxury because they actually built the plane while they were flying it. Whereas the next generation wants things done. They want the cockpit, they want policies and structures and accountability, KPIs and decision frameworks. Not because they love the bureaucracy of those things, but because it actually frees them up so that others can do what their parents once did. And then they can move on to much more strategic activities like brand ambassadorship, like growing the business, like new product development, all the things that really light them up. Number three is that the next generation are, what I'm finding, are actually thinking much bigger. So quite often, having worked in regional markets most of my career, the parents and the founders operated in a regional environment. So they operated almost with fences and boundaries, and this is our market, and this is where we stand, and this is our reputational resources, and people will keep coming to us. And they built their world like that. But the next gen is looking far beyond the regions, even beyond Australia, beyond how it's always been done. They grew up in a very connected world, so they're not intimidated by digital, e-commerce, partnerships or exporting. These are things that they see as part of business. So they actually think on a much broader scale, much bigger markets. One next-gen husband and wife team I mentored took a business that did manufacturing, was quite a local business, and they started to really become the premium option nationally. They wanted to become known on a national footprint, and they wanted the product to be ahead of the pack so that they could push into these much bigger markets. They changed the story, they changed the offer, they reviewed the customer journey, and they invested in building capability, bringing that into the business to really punch into much larger space and much bigger market. And interestingly, in 18 months, they actually did it. They had really great supply chains into metro markets, and whereas their parents might have thought that was beyond them and not possible. So that's number three, that the next generation is often thinking bigger. Number four, the next generation siblings can strengthen capacity if roles are mapped with intention. It's really important. So siblings in a business, when they use their strengths really well, and that can be like a superpower. But when they don't, when things aren't clear, and when things aren't structured enough and roles and responsibilities aren't clear, it can be like a slow motion car crash as siblings vie and jockey for position, and that is not a place you want to be in a family business, in any business. So I've seen it work really brilliantly when siblings stop trying to be equal and start trying to be effective. What does that look like? It's about playing to strengths. One sibling might be great at business development, one sibling might be great at people management and general management, one sibling might be great at working with suppliers. Whatever it looks like, putting siblings in roles that play to their strengths with very clear boundaries, very clear responsibilities, and celebrating them for those roles that they do, really can pull down the pecking order. We can really pull down those barriers of feeling valued. Absolutely critical that those roles are mapped with absolute intention, and siblings don't then make it up as they go along because they're the owner, vying for different political power within the business. That can really tear a business apart. So that's number 4. Number 5, and this for me could almost be number 1, and that is the founder needs a mapped role. They need a transition plan, and it must be long enough to give them time to be able to relax into the new role, to get used to the new role, to shift their identity, because this is where I see most of the conflict arising and the most of the tension arising between the founder and the next generation. If the founder doesn't have a meaningful role in the transition, they will create one in their own head, and that may not, and quite often, doesn't work for either the business or for the next generation trying to lead the business. You cannot just walk from a lifetime of identity off into the wilderness, is what I've found. So the smartest families and the ones that are most attuned, they'll build a founder evolution plan, a role that really matters, giving them a mentoring role, giving them key accounts, giving them a culture ambassadorial role, giving them some, whatever a community involvement looks like, or special projects with very clear boundaries so the team isn't confused about who leads what. That's absolutely critical. I've got one founder, and this role would be quite common, where the founders become the sort of research and development consultant. All those years of experience, all those years of knowledge are then put into place to really look at what sort of product development we go to next for new products and innovation. They still feel deeply valued, they still feel involved, but they're no longer the daily decision maker. And when we can get to that stage in the relationship with the kids, the team can know where they're at, who the boss is, who they report to, and the founder can then transition over time into the new role, feeling valued and with their identity intact. Really, really important. So they're the 5. So I'll just quickly recap those. Number 1 is that the next generation want to do it differently. I'm seeing that all the time. Number 2 is the next generation are looking to build what I call a family corporate model with structures that gives them the freedom that rather than just a job. They don't want to work as hard. They've watched their parents sacrifice quite often, and they don't want to have success come at that price. They often think bigger and are quite audacious in punching into new markets and growing the business. When there's multiple siblings, they can strengthen capacity if the roles are mapped through with intention. It's really, really important. And then finally, number 5 is the founder needs a roadmap and a transition plan so that they can ease into their new world and give themselves time to get used to the new identity. Underpinning all of this, though, in the best family transitions I've seen, the best successions I've seen, is love and respect. At the end of the day, the most important thing is the family stays together and stays together well. So the most successful next generation businesses start from a place of love and respect, because at the end of the day, the family relationship matters more than the business. So if your succession plan wins financially but costs you Christmas lunch, it's way too expensive. If you only take one thing from this, let it be this: that succession isn't a transaction. It's a relationship decision dressed up as a business plan. So get your structures right and build your freedom. Get your roles clear and you build capability. But if you get the respect right, you'll keep the thing that matters the most, because one day the balance sheet won't be the scorecard you care about. It'll be whether you sit around a table, share a laugh, and know that the business strengthened the family, not strained it.